Behind the marble columns and golden facades of imperial Rome lived men who had no names, no dignity, no tomorrow they could call their own. They scrubbed the feet of gods who walked on earth. They held mirrors for monsters. They smiled while their souls shattered. This is their story. The story Rome never wanted you to hear. Picture Rome at its zenith. The year is 95 AD. Domitian rules from his palace on the Palatine Hill. The Colosseum roars with the blood of gladiators. Aqueducts carry fresh water to 1 million citizens. The greatest empire the world has ever seen. But empires are built on bones. And Rome was built on the bones of the forgotten. 1 in 3 people in this glittering city was a slave. Not just any slave, but human furniture. Living tools, breathing ornaments for the wealthy to display, to use, to break. The social hierarchy was carved in stone. At the top, citizens, senators, the imperial family. Below them, freedmen, foreign merchants, craftsmen. And at the very bottom, deeper than the sewers beneath their feet, and the servi, the slaves. Male house slaves occupied a special kind of hell. They weren't just labourers, they were entertainment. Dawn breaks over the 7 hills. In the villa of Senator Marcus Aurelius Corvus, the morning ritual begins. Gaiusif, we can call him that, for slaves' names belonged to their masters awakens on the floor. No bed, no blanket, just cold stone against his naked skin. First task, the morning bath preparation. He must test the water temperature, not with his hand, with his tongue. Too hot, and he'll be beaten. Too cold, and he'll be beaten. Just right, and he might survive another day. The master emerges. Gaius must undress him, slowly, carefully, like unwrapping a precious gift. His eyes must never meet his master's. His hands must never tremble, even though every fibre of his being screams to flee. Into the bath, Gaius follows. Naked, always naked. Privacy was a luxury reserved for humans, and slaves were not human. He scrubs the senator's back, massages his shoulders, washes his hair. The water grows cold, and Gaius must warm it with his own body heat, submerging himself completely, letting the senator's bath water fill his lungs. But the morning has only begun. Breakfast time. Gaius must taste each dish before his master. Not for poisono, that honour belonged to specialized food tasters. He tastes to ensure the temperature is perfect, burns his tongue daily, swallows his cries. Then comes the dressing ritual. Each fold of the toga must be perfect, each pin placed with precision. Gaius is a human mannequin, holding fabric, adjusting, draping, kneeling for what feels like hours as his master decides which image of power he'll wear today. But the real humiliation begins when guests arrive. Evening. The villa fills with laughter. Wine flows like blood from conquered lands. The elite of Rome gather for their symposium, their drinking party. Gaius stands in the corner, still naked, still silent, a living statue. "Bring us the dancing boy," someone shouts. The dancing boy, that's what they called him, as if he were a thing, not a person, as if 23 years of life could be reduced to a single humiliating function. Music begins. Gaius must dance. Not the sacred dances of his homeland, those memories are forbidden. He must writhe, pose, perform like a trained animal. The guests laugh. They throw coins at his feet. They discuss his body as if he cannot hear. "Look at those muscles," one senator observes. "Good breeding stock. His previous owner trained him well," another replies. "See how he moves, like a woman." The night grows later, wilder. Wine loosens tongues and inhibitions. Gaius is passed around like a cup. Each guest wants to touch, to examine, to use. He is made to serve wine, pouring it, while balancing on one foot, while guests try to make him spill. If he succeeds, they applaud like he's a clever dog. If he fails, they beat him like a disobedient one. Then comes the worst part, the games. They make him fight other slaves, naked wrestling matches for their amusement, not to the death that would be wasteful, just to humiliation, to broken bones, to shattered dignity. The winner gets extra food. The loser gets lent to another household for a week. His name was Marcus, not the senator. He would never share a name with his master. This Marcus was different, smaller, younger, maybe 16. He had been a scribe's son in Gaul, captured during one of Caesar's campaigns, sold in the slave markets of Rome to Senator Corvus for his particular tastes. Marcus's job was simple. He was a living lamp. Every evening he would stand motionless in the senator's study, holding a burning oil lamp while his master read or entertained guests, for hours, sometimes all night. His arms would shake from exhaustion. Hot oil would drip onto his skin, leaving permanent scars. But he could not move, could not cry out, could not shift his weight. One night, during a particularly long dinner party, Marcus finally collapsed. The lamp shattered, oil ignited. The senator's precious scrolls manuscripts of poetry he'd been writing caught fire. Marcus wasn't beaten. That would have been merciful. Instead, he was sold to the gladiator schools. Not as a fighter, he was too small, too weak, as a practice dummy, a living target for gladiators to learn their craft. He lasted 3 days. Lucius had been beautiful once. Golden hair, eyes like summer sky, the kind of beauty that made Roman matrons weep and Roman men hunger. He was purchased specifically for that beauty, to be displayed, to be admired, to be used. His master, a wealthy merchant named Flavius, liked to show off his possessions, and Lucius was his favorite possession. Dinner parties became exhibitions. Lucius would be oiled until his skin gleamed like bronze, dressed in silk so fine it was transparent, made to recline on cushions while guests admired him like a living sculpture. But looking was never enough. Flavius would lend Lucius to other households, not for labor, for companionship, for whatever his friends desired. Lucius would disappear for days, sometimes weeks. He would return hollow-eyed, broken in ways that never quite healed. The worst part wasn't the physical abuse, it was the pretense, the lie that he was special, cherished, loved. Lucius began to believe it, started to think he was different from other slaves, that his master truly cared for him. Until the night, Flavius grew tired of his golden hair and had it shaved off, tired of his summer sky eyes and had them altered, tired of his beauty and decided to make him ordinary. Lucius hung himself with silk sheets, the same silk he had once worn to entertain guests. He was 19 years old. Antonius was different, stronger, older. He had been a soldier once, before capture, before chains, before the villa of Senator Corvus. He told himself he could endure anything, that his mind was his own, even if his body belonged to another. But the senator had creative ideas about entertainment. Antonius was made to serve at orgies. Not just wine and food, he was part of the entertainment, made to perform acts that would have been considered criminal if done to a citizen, made to smile while his soul died. The breaking point came during a celebration of the emperor's birthday, a special party, important guests. Antonius was dressed as a gladiator, not for fighting but for humiliation. He was made to battle a female slave, while guests cheered and bet on the outcome. Not combat something far more degrading, a performance of dominance and submission for their amusement. That night, Antonius found a way to the senator's private study, found a knife used for cutting papyrus, found the courage to end his shame. But he didn't kill himself. He waited for the senator to return from his party, waited in the shadows like the soldier he used to be. They found 2 bodies the next morning. The senator's death was artistic, creative, a masterpiece of revenge. Antonius was crucified, of course, but as the nails pierced his flesh, witnesses said he smiled. For the first time in 3 years, he smiled. But these individual stories, they're just droplets in an ocean of suffering. The real horror wasn't in the dramatic moments. It was in the everyday, the constant grinding humiliation that stripped away identity, hope, humanity itself. Male house slaves lived in a world where their bodies were not their own, where their thoughts were monitored, their dreams forbidden, their very existence conditional on the whims of their masters. They were made to watch their masters' children grow up free, while their own children, if they were allowed to have any, were born into the same chains. They were forced to participate in their own dehumanization, to smile while being degraded, to thank their masters for small mercies, to compete with other slaves for scraps of dignity. The psychological torture was perhaps worse than the physical. They were made to believe they deserved their fate, that they were naturally inferior, that their suffering was justified by their birth, their capture, their very existence. And the masters? They slept soundly, convinced of their own virtue, their own superiority, their own right to own other human beings. This wasn't random cruelty. It was systematic, institutional, legal. Roman law was clear. Slaves were property. They could be bought, sold, traded, destroyed at will. They had no rights, no recourse, no hope of justice. The empire's economy depended on this suffering. Its culture celebrated it. Its religion blessed it. Male house slaves were just one small part of a vast machine of human exploitation, but their suffering was intimate, personal, designed not just to extract labor, but to destroy the soul. They were broken daily, systematically, scientifically. Their masters studied their weaknesses, their fears, their breaking points. They crafted new humiliations, new tortures, new ways to remind them that they were less than human. And the most horrifying part? It worked. Most slaves never rebelled, never escaped, never even dreamed of freedom. They were so thoroughly broken that they couldn't imagine any other existence. They lived, they suffered, they died, and Rome built monuments to its own glory on their unmarked graves. Walk through Rome today, see the Colosseum, marvel at the Pantheon, stand in awe before the Forum. But remember, every stone was placed by enslaved hands, every column was carved by broken men, every triumph was built on anonymous suffering. The grandeur of Rome's art, the literature, the philosophy, the law of it, was purchased with human misery. The civilization we still admire, still study, still celebrate. It was a pyramid of pain. And the male house slaves? They are forgotten, their names erased, their stories silenced, their suffering dismissed as the necessary cost of empire. But their ghosts still walk those marble halls. Their whispers still echo in the wind that blows through ancient ruins. Their pain still stains the stones we photograph and admire. They remind us that civilization is fragile, that dignity is precious, that humanity can be lost, piece by piece, ritual by ritual, humiliation by humiliation. They remind us that behind every golden age, someone pays the price. So when you look at the glory of Rome, when you marvel at its achievements, when you study its history in schools and museums, will you remember the boys who held the lamps while their masters wrote poetry? Will you remember the men who danced naked while senators applauded? Will you remember the human beings who were bought and sold like cattle, who suffered and died so that others could live in luxury? Or will you, like Rome itself, to choose to forget? Because that choice to remember or forget, that choice makes us human, or something else entirely.